pandemic has some kids taking sex ed
Our kids are going la, 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 la.
with their parents.
We have an obligation to teach our kids about their sexual health.
Welcome to the doctors. We have a great show for you today. Dr. Batra is joining us. It's so great to have you back with us, Doc.
So great to be here. Thanks, Drew.
All right, now for many of us, our sex ed class was taught by our gym teacher who probably wanted to get it over with as quickly as possible. Well, today, some middle schoolers are now taking sex ed, get this, with their parents. COVID-19 has forced schools to pivot from teaching students in the classroom to online, including subjects like sexual education. Only a few states require sex ed to be taught in schools. So in some cases, learning online allows expanded access for these lessons. Some say holding classes through online platforms allows for better communication about what can be an embarrassing topic. Chat tools and private messages allow for more thoughtful communication with instructors, and with most schooling happening at home, some parents are even joining in the discussion. Online sex ed may be here to stay, but should students be forced to take it with their parents? Please welcome sex ed teacher Dr. Mary Jo Podgurski and family physician Dr. Deborah Gilboa.
So, Dr. Podgurski, you teach a sex ed class for sixth graders with their parents.
I do.
Is that awkward?
It doesn't have to be awkward. It really doesn't. I find that the most important thing is to let them feel like they're safe. I set guidelines in the beginning for respect, and I let them tell me what they need. I want them to be able to go to a parent and say, I don't understand this joke I heard on the bus, or my body is doing this and I don't get it. That's my focus.
Clearly, you have put a lot of thought into this, and it's done, in my mind, so well and so professionally. So let's bring in Dr. G. What do you think? Is this age appropriate for sixth graders?
It's fantastic for sixth graders, but I'm going to say if it's not the first time that they're hearing about this topic, because our kids are going to learn about bodies, about development, about relationships, about the idea of sex or sexiness way before sixth grade, most of them. And what we want them to know is that their grown-up, their trusted adult, hopefully their trusted adult at home, is their go-to person. But I think that for a lot of us as parents, we feel like, well, I can't be that because I'm not an expert. I don't know exactly what to say. And I'm not saying for a second that parents need to be an expert in any of these things. I'm saying they need to be an expert in their child and helping their child trust them. What's really important is that your child know that you are their first stop, and that if there's information that you don't have, the two of you together will go find trusted, evidence-based, fact-based sources to go get more information from.
How do you recommend parents start teaching or talking to their kids about sex ed?
So actually, I really want to be encouraging. You already have. How do I know? Well, you've gotten your kids to wear pants. That conversation is a little bit of the conversation about sex, why you have to cover certain parts of your body when you go outside the house. You've answered why they should knock on a closed bathroom door and not just barge in. You've explained where it's okay to touch people when you're trying to get their attention and where it's not okay to touch people when you're trying to get their attention. And you've let them know that they need to communicate with you about their body. When you've asked them, for example, when they're not feeling well, how long has it been since you pooped? All of those conversations, we have 1,000 conversations with our kids in their childhood about bodies, about discretion, about safety, about sex. It's not one big looming iceberg that you're headed for and you're afraid it's going to sink the whole ship. It is all of these different little conversations where you are building your credibility with them as somebody who can be trusted, who won't freak out, who will be able to handle it, and opening those lines of communication.
I'd like to introduce one more guest, Alyssa. Now get this, everybody, listen up. You not only took Dr. Podgurski's class when you were in school, but you recently took it with your 13-year-old. Tell us about your experience.
I really feel that it opened communication for my daughter and I. We were able to get on the same page, that she knew what I knew and I knew what she knew, And believe me, nothing was new to her. She had heard it on the bus. She heard it in school. So Mary Jo was really able to give her an education with the correct facts and went through and was really on their level.
I'm curious if you sensed a vibe, though, among the other sixth graders, because how did they feel about sitting there? I know I had to recently sit with my son and do a sex ed on Zoom, and I'm curious if it was an issue that they just didn't feel so comfortable. Maybe some adults are a little less comfort-inducing than others. Did you sense any of that in the room?
I did sense from other people, but they got used to it. And I have a nephew who's the same age, and he wasn't signed up at first. And I really encouraged my sister after taking the class just to do it. Yes, maybe the first 5-10 minutes is going to be uncomfortable, but they know everything. And it was more of giving us of, okay, I know that you know this, and I want you to come to me, and I'm okay. This is normal.
To that point, Dr. G, I'm wondering if you could weigh in for those kids who refuse to talk to their parents about sex, who maybe aren't feeling as comfortable with it. How do you recommend parents make it feel less awkward for them?
Look, it makes sense that some kids would be like, really, in front of my classmates on Zoom with my grown-up, listening to those words be spoken? I don't want that. So if that's not something they're comfortable with, or if talking about it as a family at the dinner table isn't comfortable to someone, then it's about consent. We want to respect their wishes. So we can give them some choices. We can say, okay, learning about this isn't negotiable, but how do you want to learn about it? Do you want to each of us watch this video separately and then discuss it together? Do you want to read this book and tell me about it? I know a family of a single mom and a son where they came up with leaving Post-its, writing down a question and answers and leaving it under each other's pillows. So they had this whole journal relationship about this, but didn't actually speak the words out loud until he was older. Whatever works for you and your child, that's always been true. There's lots of ideas out there about how to raise your kids, but you have to find something that fits your relationship. But the thing that we have to really keep in mind is that our kids may have some ideas too about what would work for them. So as long as the end result, you learning about this fact-based stuff and making sure I know you know it, isn't negotiable, we can say to them, okay, I get that none of my ideas have been comfortable for you. What does work? What would you like to try? And we'll try that. And in that way, we're modeling for them consent and communication, as well as making sure that they know that this information is crucial and they can't get out of childhood without it.
What about parents who don't want this taught at school? And I'm sure there's going to be some of those. What do you say to them?
So when I have reluctant parents, I will try to listen and figure out what they're concerned about. It often comes out that they don't know what I'm going to talk about. And they're so afraid that I'm going to do something that takes away innocence. But innocence is not, sexuality is part of who we are. It's not a negative thing to know what your body does. It's really important to know what your body does. And if you can get people to see that, and I often have been able to, they're much more likely to be willing to do something like this.
Dr. Podgurski, it sounds like you don't take away innocence, you take away fear.
I do. You're absolutely right. Thank you for saying that. Absolutely. And I don't want children to be afraid of anything. I don't lie to them. I'm, first of all, listening to what they think they need. I want them to grow and be the kind of person that is happy with their bodies.
Exactly. Well, I think we all agree that this kind of knowledge not only gives us power and strength, but in this case, improves the quality of life. So Dr. Podgurski, Alyssa, Dr. G, this has been a great panel. Been great having you here with us today, and keep up the good work.